One of the coldest and longest nights of the year was when it happened. I was a young journalist then, and I was assigned to write a story about an old house on the outskirts of the city. The house, known as the House on the Hill, had a grim reputation. Locals whispered that ghosts lived there, and no one dared to go near it after sunset. Of course, I found this laughable. I wanted to prove they were just children's ghost stories. I grabbed my camera and a voice recorder and went there to spend the night. The moment I stepped inside, a cold unlike anything I had ever felt enveloped me. It wasn't just a cold wind, it was as if the house itself was breathing out icy air. The scent of mold and decay hung in the air. I took a few photos, trying to find something to confirm the legends. All the rooms were empty, except for a thick layer of dust covering everything. At midnight, I was sitting in the living room, recording my impressions on the voice recorder. Suddenly, in the complete silence, I heard a quiet, barely audible whisper. It sounded like the rustle of autumn leaves, but at the same time, it had a strange, sinister tone. I stopped the recording and listened. The whisper grew louder. It came from all the walls at once. It seemed like thousands of voices were trying to tell me something, but I couldn't make out a single word. I panicked. This was nothing like the ghosts I had read about. The whisper was so real it felt like it was penetrating my brain. I grabbed my backpack and rushed to the door, but it was locked. I rattled the doorknob, knocked, and yelled, but it wouldn't budge. Suddenly, the whisper turned into laughter. It was a wicked, childlike laugh that filled the entire house. I looked around and saw strange drawings appearing on the walls, children's faces with empty, black eyes staring at me. They moved, their mouths stretching into horrifying smiles, and from them came that same childlike laughter. I blacked out. When I came to, it was already morning. The sun was shining through the windows, and I was alone in the empty house. There were no drawings on the walls, and the door was open. I ran, never looking back, and never returned to the house again. After that night, I decided to stop writing about the paranormal. But the whisper from those walls still echoes in my ears. Sometimes, when I am alone in the silence, I can hear it. And I know that ghosts are not shadows but something much worse. They are the echoes of pain and fear that live in walls that have eyes. And those eyes are looking directly at you when you think you're alone. This was a terrifying story that haunted me, but my investigation of that house didn't end there. It had only just begun. As I said, the whispering didn't go away. It followed me wherever I went. I decided to go back to the source. I grabbed my voice recorder again, summoned my courage, and drove back to the house on the hill. This time, I was ready. I knew what was waiting for me, and I had a plan. When I entered the house, it once again enveloped me in its icy cold. The whispering started almost immediately. I turned on my recorder and began to ask questions. Who's here? And what do you want? In response, all I heard was an unintelligible whisper and laughter. I decided to go further. I went down to the basement, where I felt the main mystery was hidden. The basement was flooded with water. I heard a splash and saw children's toys floating on the surface, a small, headless doll, a wooden horse, a broken toy car. Suddenly, in the complete silence, I heard a child's voice singing. It was a lullaby my mother used to sing to me when I was a child. I felt goosebumps run down my spine. I was in a basement where there could be no one, yet I heard a lullaby. It wasn't just a sound. It was a voice I remembered from my childhood. I looked at my voice recorder. There was a recording of a child's voice singing the lullaby. It wasn't just a recording, it was something I couldn't explain. The voice sounded like my own, but it was a child's. I ran out of the basement. I realized this wasn't just a haunted house. It was a place where time stood still, where memories become real, where your forgotten fears and childhood traumas come out. It's a place where not a ghost lives, but your past. I never went back to that house again. But I know it will always be with me. It will always remind me that the past never dies. It lives in the walls that watch you when you think you're alone. I returned to the old house again, this time with a different purpose. I wanted to understand what exactly happened in this house, why the ghosts that lived here were so tied to the past. My investigation led me to old newspaper archives, where I found an article about a tragic event that happened in this house many years ago. The owner of the house, a young woman named Emily, lost her 2 children in a fire that started in the basement. She escaped, but she could never forgive herself for failing to save her children. A few years later, she took her own life in the same basement where her children had died. I realized that the ghosts I saw and heard were not just restless souls, but an echo of Emily's pain. She still couldn't let go of her children, and her despair, her grief, her guilt had become the unseen residents of this house. But that wasn't all. I learned that before her death, Emily had hidden small dolls in the walls of the house, which symbolized her children. She believed that her children's souls would live in these dolls and that she would be able to find them. I decided to find these dolls. I returned to the house and began searching every room. With each step, I felt the tension build. The whispers I had heard before turned into wailing. It was the cry of a mother who had lost her children. When I entered Emily's bedroom, I saw strange marks on the wall. I started chipping away at the wall and found a small opening behind it. Inside were 2 small dolls, wrapped in old newspapers. I took them. In that very moment, I felt the cold that had dominated the house disappear. The wailing stopped, and the whispers turned into a quiet, peaceful voice. It was Emily's voice, thanking me. She was grateful that I had helped her find her children. I left the house. This time, I wasn't running. I walked slowly, holding the 2 small dolls in my hands. I knew that now, the souls of Emily and her children had found peace. I never returned to that house, but I know that ghosts aren't always something evil. Sometimes, they are just souls looking for peace. Sometimes, all they need is help to let go of the past and find tranquility.